Yeah, it looks to me like
that's not $50.
It is
2013.
it is under. But you had to do your research. If you do your research, it's I think $49.99 something, $19.99.
I found the youngest one I could.
Yeah,
And it was a 16. And it was still $40.
the Casella. It's not the first time. It's not the first time we had that. This bottle, it's the first time, but the house itself, it's second time we have it, and it is below 50.
Just.
Swear.
Did you just say you got yours out of your cellar?
Hey, the one that kicked your ass the other week was out of my cellar, so you can bitch and moan.
Yeah, but
as
it
much
only
as you
been
want.
in there for a week. How long is that? Oh, man, you get so defensive now.
2014 Miller.
Oh, we've Cabernet Franc. Okay, all right. Oh,
Long
14,
job.
14.
Might as well tap out now. 2016. I thought that'll be right.
Is it? We can do it the other way. We don't have to go by order. We can actually pick a
What
number.
is yours?
It's the guy's name.
No, it's a Cab Sav.
No, it's a Cab Merlot.
Cab Sav.
You guys got Cabernet in it, so we'll start with mine.
So which order does it go with reds? Do you do Cab? You do
You go
Shiraz before.
first. Shiraz first.
Okay.
And then you do the other ones. Right, so let's get the glasses out. Shiraz first. Oh, well, here you go, mate. You're in the middle, so you might as well just do the sharing. Oh, that's very nice. Now, well, that one there, we it's not the first time we had the Casella, but this is, again, the Italian family. And I was thinking about it, These guys came to this country in 1965 from Sicily.
Wow.
They decided, we're going to have our own vineyard. You believe this? And now their brand is huge. They own so many other companies, just crazy. It really goes to show, if you go out there and you want to win, it's Filippo and Maria Casella that came from Sicily. Unbelievable. If you want to win, you can. You just have to work hard. That's all.
Whereabouts are they
Where's
located?
the?
When they
South
first
Australia.
started, it was in Griffith outside in New South Wales. They had it, and then they moved. All right, let's try this.
Cheers, boys.
Good to see you, boys.
Good to see you, mate.
Been 2 good weeks now, and we must have a lot to say. It needs to breathe. So what happened over the last 2 weeks, mate? How did you go? How is everything going with your office the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, they're a bit slow. We've only got a sale away and one listing, so good strong buyer come through, but the inspections seem to be quite strong. We're doing a lot what Cam is. We're not getting everyone to look at it via a virtual tour as of yet, but we get qualifying them and taking them out on one-on-one basis.
Yeah.
On the weekend, we had 11 private inspections, so still showing quite a few people through quite a few properties. I think it comes down to the old analogy, market review, sell. We just have to qualify those buyers a lot more.
And you being an auctioneer, how is it working?
Well, there's no auctions going or anything like that.
No, but they don't they?
We haven't got any booked in.
Right.
Cam asked me to do a couple for him via that auction. What is auction now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you go?
Well,
We didn't do them. We pulled them because we didn't have any registered, but we sold one 6 hours after we pulled it from auction. So
that's good.
So does that mean you still pay the auctioneer?
he,
No,
he was on
I
a
put my
carton of
hand
beer
up.
for that one.
Yeah, I put my hand up for a bottle of Grange.
Yeah, no, I ran a bunch of 2-week campaigns just to try and increase urgency and get a bunch of stuff happening when it wasn't. We've got offers on all the properties that I set. We've sold one. We just didn't have no one wanted to go to the auction, but I use it as a tool for that. So we very rarely, I've probably set a dozen houses for auction. I've had to do one auction. The rest have sold before, bar
right.
one, which sold just after. So it's just a leverage that I use to get things moving a bit quicker.
Yeah. So the market's definitely had you see the difference in it. It's slowed down. However, it doesn't mean we stop. I think we have to just push
I don't
harder
know.
to more.
Yeah,
You don't.
trying to explain to someone where the market's at the moment is like trying to learn Japanese.
I just had that question
We had-
just a minute ago too.
Initially, there was a lot of panic. It took 2 weeks for the world panicking for me to see a decline in buyers, and at the same time, a few sellers who were getting ready to sell changed their mind. And then that lasted about 2 weeks. And on Easter, we had 3 properties over Easter received 54 inquiries.
Wow.
And it's been going since Easter. The 2 days just gone, we've probably had another 34 inquiries on. The funny thing is, a lot of strange time to be shopping without money. Like 90% of the inquiries we're getting are people wanting to see houses without pre-approval, without.
Do you think it's because they're at home, they're doing nothing, and they're on?
Oh, sure, there's a
Real
large
estate.
portion of that, and because there's no open homes anymore, they want to see these properties. But some of the conversations we're having where we're saying to people, look, because this huge virus that's going around and the world's trying to hide from? We're not showing houses to everyone. If you could please look at the virtual tour and then do a FaceTime tour with one of us and then show us your pre-approval, we'll happily show you the property. But until then, you're going to have to look at it digitally. And it's some people are understanding, other people are getting really pissed off about it. Well,
We've probably taken a little bit of a different. I'm not getting 64 inquiries over a weekend on properties. I've got a handful of properties. And we're getting decent inquiry, but not as much as I'd like. But any buyer that's inquiring, we're qualifying. You've got pre-approval, is your job secure? So we're asking them, because banks now are asking for latest pay statements before they process their loans, even if they've got pre-approval. So we're qualifying a little bit more strictly. However, we're trying to get them through everything we have. If they're looking for units, we're taking them through all the units we have. If they're looking for a home, we're taking them through all the homes we have, whether they're in their price bracket or not. We're getting them through everything, texting them, emailing them, just showing them as much stock as we can, and then 3-4 follow-up calls. How'd you go? Have you found anything? Have you had a look at that? And so forth. I think that's the best thing you can do at the moment is really stick. If you've got a buyer that's got money in their pocket, pre-approved, and they've got a good job, I think you've got to stick.
Come on,
to
mate. But in Bankstown, you know that most of the Vietnamese have got all the money under the mattress. I'm serious. Have you guys been calling on those people and saying to them, with the interest rate at its lowest, that cash you have in reserve, that's better than having your grandson living in a rented house? This is a crazy bid. I think it is a time for tenant to look at buying and securing themselves. And this is the lowest interest rate they'll ever get, right?
A lot of those buyers that we're speaking to saying it is a good time to jump in. Money's cheap. And if you've got that equity or that cash, jump into the market. It's a great time. Yeah. And they're all... I haven't heard anyone saying it otherwise. They're all going, the market's going to drop further.
No, I don't think it's going to drop.
And that's what we're saying.
I think that the stock market is going to drop. And every single time stock market drops, what happens? They all put it in the properties. And mate, people are gambling. So it's all the time. One day you gamble with this, it goes your way, then you're fine. And then the next, you go the other direction. Man, it's always 50-50.
I'm pretty confident in our areas there's been about a 5% drop, but I'm pretty sure that ended in the week just gone. The activity levels are increasing and increasing. And because things are selling again, sellers haven't caught onto it yet. We don't have listing appointments booked, so we don't have a huge array of stock ready to come on the market, so that's only going to dwindle stock levels, which definitely isn't putting a downturn on prices. We had one weekend, the weekend before Easter was the first weekend we'd seen buyers come out and try what we had to put up with for 2 years, which was putting in ridiculous offers and pulling the old the market's going to drop by 30% and quoting all Channel 9's lines at us. We hadn't had that for 6 months or so because things were going good again, but that was all the bullshit we had to put up with in 2018. But as I said, we were pretty firm on it without burning bridges. There was plenty of walkaways. You want to put in a silly offer and try and pick the bones on someone's misfortune, which was what was happening. We're not going to play the game with you. So we walked away, and then the next weekend they realised and they've all come back and put in decent offers on properties. So, and I think there's definitely been a bit more positivity in the air. There's been a lot less panic. Even the mention of lifting restrictions, even though they're saying it's not going to be for another month, that's got to be filling people with more confidence. And again, the same rubbish talk that leads things into downturns is the same rubbish talk that pulls things out of downturns. But with that positivity, they just need to see a few people going first.
The nose, the berries, the spices in it. I'm sorry, man.
You're sorry,
man.
Mate.
We enjoying it. Why are you talking? We enjoying this.
The wine's better than me talking, so don't worry about it. The point is, we need to do a better job of getting sellers to understand that as well, because there's buyers there. There is buyers there. Of our 5 properties, we've got offers on 4 of them. There's buyers there, so don't miss that. I had a conversation with someone yesterday who was getting ready to come on the market but didn't know when to jump. I said, well, we need to jump now before 40 other people have the same idea, and he'll have the most expensive house probably ever sold in Barrera. And you don't want to be trying to get that kind of coin when there's 40 other houses for people to choose from. So,
but in his category, he'd be a quite unique property to start with, right? Wouldn't he?
Yes and no. There's lots of big houses in that area. Just this one's a bit newer, and then got a few more bells and whistles. That's all. And the difference, the money we're going to be asking is probably $200,000 or $300,000 above.
Just in your market, Cam, is your market mostly people living in the area, upsizing or downsizing within the area, or did you get a lot of...
So the good thing about what we do is that Carryong and Barrera are very, very similar in demographic and in the way everything works there. The people who are buying in the Barrera area are coming from the Northern Beaches or the hills where they've been priced out of the market there. and you can buy, it sounds mad, but you can buy a decent 3-bedroom home in Barrera for $1 million versus, and then all the people buying in Carryong come from Barrera where they've been priced out of the market because a decent 3-bedroom home costs $1 million and in Carryong it's $650,000. Right. So we're in a great position and a very unique position of basically being able to walk into listing appointments in Carryong and say, well, we're selling the house of your buyer in Barrera. No one else can say that. And then we're in a unique position in Barrera where a lot of people buying in Barrera come from Monavale.
Okay.
And the Northern Beaches and Castle Hill.
And they do their transit? Or is it a holiday getaway?
No, they're driving into the city. So
they
want to be a bit closer but still not in the thick of it. So we're in a great position where we can say, well, we've literally got offices in all those areas. But it's definitely a migration up. And then from us, a lot of people leave us and move into Darren Butcher's area or beyond because the same thing, a $700,000 house in Carryong is worth $500,000 in
Oregon.
So your buyer inquiry is strong. What about your seller inquiry? Is that come off the boil a bit or
completely?
Okay.
I'd be lying if I said anything otherwise. It's not through lack of effort or lack of trying. Our last 7 listings have come from call-ins. We haven't had one for probably 3 or 4 weeks now.
You haven't had a call-in?
No.
Okay.
I've got 3 listings that I know of will probably come up in the next month.
So I know you said you had some staff that you've put onto limited hours and so forth. How do you find your staff is handling that now with the...
It started yesterday, mate, so give me a couple more days. Yesterday was the first day of their reduced time.
I mean more so about the limited call-ins and...
That didn't affect them anyway. The staff we've still got. When we cut all the hours, is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but we had decisions that needed to be made, so we made them. One staff member left. The guys that stayed have come back with it seems like a renewed sense of purpose. They are doing their best to make every post a winner. They now have the luxury, if you can call it that, of only having to sprint for 3 or 4 hours a day instead of 8 hours a day, and we're doing a lot of work around the mindset that is that. And what I'm hoping to find and what I think is we will find is...
Just can you explain for me your sprint for 3? So you get them on 3 or 4 hours a day. Is that right? 4 hours a day?
They've all been cut to certain hours a week.
Okay,
We've had to do a roster system around that.
Okay.
So instead of a benchy having to come in and prospect for 8 hours a day, they got 3 hours where they can go absolutely bonkers and then go home.
Yeah, right, okay.
And what we'll probably find, and I know Thomas spoke a bit about this in the Zoom meeting yesterday, is, and I'm of the same opinion, we'll probably, if we don't get the same results, we'll probably get more results than we were with everyone turning up to work going, shit, I've got a prospect for the next 8 hours, because if you're sprinting the whole time, that energy is transferable and you'll probably get the same amount of calls, or if not the same amount of calls, the energy you've got on the phone because you're sprinting for that 3 hours will translate into much better results. And it was a very tough conversation that we had to have in the middle of last week, and helping staff fill out settling forms and stuff isn't fun, but they've come back fighting, and I'm really proud of them. So.
Yeah, good on you, man. There was, I don't know if it was a Norwegian country or if it's like Norway or Sweden or one of those, they actually proved that a shorter working hour, working day, I think they were working Sweden 6 hours a day and only 4 days a week, I think it was. They were being, I think, 20% more productive within that working time than doing your normal working week because of that fact. Because and using your analogy, is they're doing those short sprints, lots of energy, high energy, lots of output, getting the stuff done in that time that they're there.
There's a book I read a long time ago which was called Winning Without Losing, and it was written by a couple of Nordic, I think they were Swedish, or one was Swedish and one was Dutch, I think, and what they'd done is gone around and studied all the best performing companies in the world. So they'd studied Google and they'd studied Facebook and they'd put together what they found in all of those things, and one of the biggest things was it wasn't the hours, it was the productivity of the hours, and they called it riding the wave. You do the work when your energy's up and you don't do the work when your energy's down, and as long as you're riding those waves and sprinting, as long as when your energy is up, you're going to work. It's been found through all the best performing organisations on the planet that the productivity level is through the roof. I gave a speech last year to my staff that everyone knows that I love playing the PlayStation. Well, in Call of Duty on the PlayStation, they don't score you by how many people they kill or how many times you die. They score you by how many points per minute you actually are good for. So I might play a game for 40 minutes and be useless, hiding in a corner and not kill anybody, so I don't score any points, where someone in 10 minutes could score 1,000 points.
Right.
So the theory I've been trying to get across to the team is what's your points per minute? And that should be the go all the time, I guess. Fortunately or unfortunately, it's taken something like this to happen, to be able to personify it, to actually take it away from words and to see, well, this is now actually what it is. So, yeah, we'll fight on.
My only issue, though, is for the moment, it has to be a bit tough to be an employee.
Yeah.
You know, you're in the unknown when it comes to what the government's deciding. And then you're at the mercy of your leaders' insecurity in many ways too. So you're constantly thinking, what is my leader going to decide about my hours, even my position, you know? And so what do you say to these employees who are feeling a bit insecure?
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Yeah.
And, that sort of insecurity, I think you need to communicate with people that you can confide in, so to make sense of what you're going through, or just even to get it off your chest. And it all comes down to that mindset. It all comes down to that understanding of your own mindset, not understanding of the situation, because I don't think anyone understands the fucking situation. I think first and foremost, you need to not retreat into your cave, but as men do, and do more what women do, is reach out and speak through these issues and see if you can find someone that's got some common sense.
Yeah, but so in your case, for example, how did you learn about the reduction in terms of hours?
My leader just come in and said, "Oh, this is the hours you're going to be working," and
took you aside one-on-one?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, and said, "This is the hours you're going to be working." I've gone, "Oh, okay, rightio. Well, how do we work out the hours that I'm not working? What supplements the rest of my wage? Because I have commitments. I have financial commitments.
Yeah.
My wife is also, for those who don't know, in the hotel industry. Fortunately, she's working because she's in a HR position. But her job is very unstable. So as an employee, we're sitting there going, okay, well, we've got a lot of financial commitments behind us. Well, how's this going to impact that? So we then have to take steps to sort of shore up that side of it, whether it's delaying payments with the banks or whatever it is, going into getting a cheaper health fund, delaying payments on certain things that we're going to do, whatever it may be. So we have to ensure that we can continue. And how long are we going to be able to continue? I'm fortunate that I've got annual leave and some long service leave owing, so I can supplement my wage by taking that. A lot of people aren't in that position. So they will have to really sort of scramble to work out how their finances are going to stretch, how they're going to make it work for them a lot longer.
Some of your colleagues, though, are not getting the long service leave. What are they telling you?
So for them, it's very nervous times. They're coming to me and saying, "Chris, is there anything more I can do?" Because they don't want to lose their job. They understand that this is a time that they've, and two of them specifically have only started recently with us. When I say recently, just this year, beginning of this year. Yeah. They both are fortunately viable for the job keeper payment, but that brings them down to about 4 days a week. In real estate's never, and Cam said it a few shows ago, real estate's never a fantastic paying job on the wage. It's the commission that we rely on to sort of make a good living. But for these guys, they're in survival mode, both in financially and within the office. And you can see that they want to do extra, they're training hard, they want to do more, they want to get the runs on the board. Because I believe they feel that their future is a little bit unsteady. And I know both of these people don't have mortgages. They're living at home with mum and dad. So they don't have huge sort of financial commitments behind them. However, they still want to make sure that their careers and their income is steady for the time being, because it's an uncertain time for them, but it is for the leaders as well.
Did they feel any sense of crisis mode in leadership or not?
I don't think they felt like sort of crisis mode. Maybe they thought there was a little bit of uncertainty in the decisions that were being made.
Right.
The delivery of those decisions maybe weren't sort of delivered with strength and certainty. That's probably as far as that goes. I think they're more worried about helping the office, helping themselves through this time. They're more concerned about losing their job rather than what the leader's decision.
Yeah. For me, I think losing the hours, losing the pay package is one thing. But losing certainty, it's even worse. And the certainty or the uncertainty is what you get from leadership. If the boss or the leader, and you know, I have a different meaning for bosses and leaders.
Yep.
Bosses are quite often in our sales industry, glorified 400-pound gorilla who happens now to be running a show. Leaders is a person who understands that I can never be more than team, and there's no I in team, that these people here make the fingers of my own hand. and treat the staff with a lot of respect, and therefore understand that in the delivery of whatever message I have, certainty that we are there to get in the trenches is vital. And that's why I ask you, because of the three of us here, you're an employee, so I will never understand what you guys are going through, because I'm not in those shoes right now, in that seat right now. So is there a feeling, is there a moment when the team's starting to feel, hold on, maybe this is time to jump off this ship?
Absolutely. I don't think people, and I don't think it matters just in real estate. I think it matters in any industry. People will be looking forward, and they'll be going 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. Am I going to stay in this industry? If someone's in the restaurant industry today, are they going to say, well, what happens if this again? My job's not as secure as I thought it was. Maybe I'll stop being a chef and become a real estate agent, or go and be a doctor or a nurse or whatever it may be. I think there's a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And that moving forward would put people in the light of, okay, how can I make my life more certain? What do I have to change? Do I have to upskill? Do I have to find maybe a side hustle, or that dream that I had of starting on my own business doing X, Y, which would survive online in this industry? I think a lot of people are having those thoughts.
I think it's a very good question, yeah. So let's explore it. So what should an employee do right now to give himself or herself more certainty and maybe make her job more secure?
I love the quote that Abdullah used recently in the interview that you had with him. He said, what you do today may only pay dividends in 3 to 6 months' time. Yes, but you have to do it today. So I think, and you're a big sort of advocate of constantly improvement and training yourself. Those people employed today that are fortunate enough to have a job, whether it's 3 days a week or full-time, need to be improving themselves within their office, outside the office, so that when we come through this, their skill is above their neighbours.
Yeah.
Because those other agents in the area are sleeping. They're sitting there around talking about doom and gloom. So I think they need to be...
Zoom and gloom.
Zoom and gloom.
Zoom, did I say zoom and gloom?
You did, mate.
Zoom and
You did,
gloom?
mate. Zoom and gloom.
So there's too many bloody Zoom meetings, mate.
You're
Too many
still in
Zoom
work
meetings.
mindset, man.
Too many Zoom meetings. Zoom and gloom. Zoom and gloom.
Listen, mate, I agree with you that they need to really invest in themselves. They're going to have to train way more.
I think that's the only way. I think they need to train, and they need to train hard. And you know what? And it's first thing that we all need to train on is our own mindset. And I'm guilty of it. Cam, called me last week, and then you called me as well. I had a bad time. I had a bad day. It was a shit day. But that was my mindset. I had to change that. Not anyone else. I had to change it. It's simple. We have to pick that up. We have to change it. And we have to be aware of those words we talk to each other, ourselves, more so ourselves. Those conversations, we all have them. When we wake up early in the morning and we loop the shit in our head that we loop, stop that. Get out of bed. Go and do
What the hell happened that
on a
day?
treadmill. Oh, just looping shit in my head about the future, about work, about how is this going to happen? Do I have enough to make sure the kids are fine? And just all the shit. It all comes out, right? So we need to make sure we push forward with that. Whether it's work, whether it's outside of work, whether it's, fortunately, it's nothing to do with the family. The family's been fantastic. But you've got to have that mindset. You've got to stop, reassess, find what's good, because there's always something good. Find what's good. And the fact that you get to spend more time with the family, the time you get to spend more time with
your bonsai?
With my bonsai. I actually made a new garden bed because Bella wants to grow vegetables. So that mindset, though, I think that mindset is number one. And I think everyone needs to, if you're not doing it well yourself, give someone a call.
But did you give people a call?
Didn't.
Oh, I see.
But I don't.
So
why don't I take my own advice? Absolutely.
People can't be too hard on themselves for not knowing what to do in a situation that no one's ever been through before.
Man.
And from an employer's point of view, or from a business owner's point of view, to staff members, we understand. I feel for every bugger, and it's very hard to give people certainty in a time that is so uncertain. The way we went about it might have been right, might have been wrong, but from day one, when all the shit started to hit the fan, we opened communication the entire time, and we told our guys exactly where we were at it as a business and what a couple of different scenarios into the future could look like, because we felt like we owed them that. We couldn't just sit on our hands and tell them nothing. But, you look back and go, oh, was that the right or the wrong thing to do? Was there too much information that might have created more uncertainty, because we were literally saying this is what we know, but we don't know what that means, sort of thing, because no one did. We didn't panic and we didn't make any rash decisions, and we waited to get all the information at our hands before we made any decisions. And the feedback we've gotten from a couple of staff members is at least now they know. You know, we're proud of the fact that we managed to do it in a way where everyone's kept their job.
Yeah.
We're very happy that we were able to find a solution that enabled them not to take too big a financial hit because of the way the government worked. But I can't imagine. I know what we felt like as business owners, so I can only imagine what the staff were going through not knowing.
I think on the other side...
But you sort of said before, you know, get it off your chest and find someone you can confide in. I think in these situations, because we are all in this together, that person needs to be your leader and your boss. If your leader and your boss, whichever one you've got working above you, is not creating any certainty or giving you any certainty or making you panic, that's got to be voiced. That's got to be, I want my guys to come to me and say, fuck, mate, you got to give us something more or something less, or I don't understand this, or, you know, it's all well and good calling other people, and you need a support network around you. That's fine, but there's a lot of, if we don't know it's broke, we can't fix it too. If everyone's running off and talking to other people instead of talking to the person that's involved in the problem, none of it's going to get fixed. And it may get fixed, it may not. Everyone's reacted different during this. There's some places that went off straight away and made massive changes. There's others that didn't. Again, everyone's in a situation that they've never been in before, so of course all their reactions were going to be different, but it's really important for everyone. Leaders are communicating with staff. It's just as important, I feel, that staff are communicating with their leaders.
Yeah,
and,
it's a fair call, Cam.
because that's the point of being in a trench together, you know. Pretty sure all the guys that have actually been in a trench together were talking to their bloke beside them and telling them how we're going to get out of this together. So
I think a lot of leaders, and I can only speak for myself, but I would like to believe, and I know you say I look through rose-coloured glasses, I like to believe a lot of employees look to their boss and understand what the leader is going through, and understand that the leader's trying to do the best they can with the information that they've got, like you have, Cam, and working forward to seeing not only to keep the business afloat, but keep these people employed and keep their families safe.
But everyone's going to have moments where they don't, and I think you've had a couple of those moments, yeah?
Yeah.
And that's the important thing. It's okay to have those moments, but realise that that's the moment you're having, and then go and talk to the person involved in the problem, I think, is the biggest conversation, because the person on the other end of the phone may, if they're not in the same shoes, isn't necessarily always going to have the right advice for you. They may have some bloody wonderful advice, but then you still need to communicate that to the person that's creating the uncertainty. If everyone's whispering behind closed doors, how are we supposed to come to a solution? But man, I guess gratitude for people who have still got their jobs. A lot don't. So many people don't. If you're a hospitality worker or a fitness worker, you're gone. So for our guys, we need to understand that we've all still employed, and you can either rest on that laurel and go, oh, well, I've still got a job, or you can go, fuck, I'm grateful that I've still got a job, and it's time to go. You know, it's time to work harder than we ever have before, and it's time to train harder than we ever have before. And if you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for all those, your mate, because everyone knows someone who's lost a job.
Yeah.
Everyone knows someone at the moment who was flying a month ago and is now on their arse. You kind of owe it to those people to keep going and make every post a winner. Yeah, you owe it the respect of being able to say, I'm so lucky I've still got a job and I'm going to work to earn it, you know, rather than sit beside your mate when the pub reopens and go, oh, well, I didn't get sacked, so whatever. Yeah, I don't know, just rattling off thoughts. I don't know.
Well, try to have a look at this as if we were in wartime. I think we are in wartime. I made sure that I gave my own team full certainty. Yes, I had a moment when this all started and they announced the first shutdown, which I think was a lie. It was, to me, I believe it's a lockdown. But when they announced the first shutdown, yes, I had a bit of a moment. I still believe it was a Sunday when they first announced it. On Tuesday, midday, it's going to happen.
Sunday at 10 a.m, mate, to be
and
exact.
So, I got
I might remember.
But at no point in time, my team saw my uncertainty. So the first thing I told the team was, this is now our opportunity to lift our game. We're going to have to deliver even more. That's it. Because I don't believe in uncertainty, even if it's communicating it. There's nothing to communicate uncertainty with a team.
Yeah.
That's why they give you the responsibility to be a leader. It's not because you employ them. If it is so, then you're just a boss. To be a leader, you have to accept the team needs motivation, not your fears. Okay? And so as a leader, you have to be there and exert an enormous amount of self-control and realize I have zero luxury to giving one iota of uncertainty. I believe that all of these things that we've been studying over the years about leadership, it's when it matters that we need to use it.
Yep.
When it matters and we start running and we start to express it to people because we believe it's needed, and again, it's a logical justification, I don't believe it. I've studied a few war generals, and I can see it. Yes, they were pooping in their pants privately. The minute they landed on the battlefield, there is no more room for that.
Yeah.
Because they say if a leader has a bit of a sniff, what happens to the team? They got pneumonia.
Right.
So
I haven't heard that before.
as a leader, you can't show any of that. When the minute you're on the battlefield, you have to have even more certainty about you, because the more certainty you have, the more you're going to persuade them. I was talking on a few podcasts ago about Viktor Frankl, who said, if you want a person to work at 100% of their ability or to reach their best, you have to talk to them as if you want way more than their best. Because if you ask them just to do their best, they always underdeliver. As a human being, we always underdeliver. So to get them to do their best, you have to talk to them as if like they just King Kong. And so, yes, my team, it's work as normal. Whatever happens behind the scene, I will deal with it when it's that time. At this point in time here, no one is being cut in hours. No one is having any issue with, you're going to have to take some holiday. No, because I truly believe we are not a restaurant business. You imagine those restaurant business on a Sunday watching the television. Maybe some of them were not even watching because they had their restaurant open and they had to close show. I met a guy who was almost in tears when it just happened at midday, right? And so we are very fortunate in real estate. None of that happened to us. We can still go about it with our business. So we have to do our duty for the country too. We have to carry on business as usual. Over the last few weeks, I've been speaking to a few people who waited for that 1,500 JobKeeper subsidy so they can make calculation. I think they're idiots. Why do you plan for 1,500? Why don't you plan for winning? Because if you plan for winning, you wouldn't need the 1,500. That's how I see it. But that's mainly because I have been training to get those things in my head. That when you hit the wave, you don't go with the wave. You want to go out there in the deep ocean to prove yourself with your technique, all your knowledge and everything you learn. This is why it's so important. At leadership level here, as an employer, we are in a driver's seat. We have an enormous amount of control over our business. I feel for these guys in my team. They're doing the best they can, and I'm sure at some stage the thought must cross their mind, what's happening? I even have a guy, he's applying for residency for the moment. He's from overseas, and if I have to just put him off, he gets zero because he doesn't even get that subsidy. I don't even want him to worry about it. We have to keep on going, and then every now and then I still have just a lunch where I just buy them lunch and we sit down and we talk about it. For the moment you can't go restaurants, so it's all takeaway stuff. But that's what you do as a leader. You have to be able to sit down with your troops and talk to them in a way that they feel, hold on, he's more certain in these uncertain times. So who am I to start being uncertain? You get?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's why when I heard about some of these things that happen, I fell for you. That's why I called you last week. And I heard from Cameron that you were feeling a bit down. And so I thought I better call. It's normal. Being an employee, things can sometimes happen. And leaders often forget you guys have got commitment. You know, I think it's Simon Sinek who said in one of his clips on TED's talk, leaders eat last. I don't believe that leaders should eat last, right? That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the troops, they all want you to eat at least at the same time as them. Some of them, they don't care if you eat before them. But leaders don't have to eat first, last, and make sure that their family is fine, and then the rest of the team comes second. That's wrong. That to me is wrong. I would rather go down bravely with the entire team doing it than go down like a coward because I just try to have a look at certain things, which is just my little family. With war, there's people, you know, my sister is a nurse in Belgium. I told you that, right?
Yeah.
I just learned this week that she's not allowed to have a coronavirus test. Because if she does and she contracted it, well, she's off. But they need her. So you know what they said? Anyone who wants a test has to pay 60 euros, so it's about 120 bucks. So none of them doing it because on that kind of income they can't.
Yeah, right.
Right? Especially when a surgeon in her own unit just died from COVID-19. And we here worrying about how many hours should we reduce so it doesn't cost us anything?
Yeah, we've got to put it in perspective. And we have to people put it in perspective. And that's what I was saying to you before. I mentioned to you, you have to find the good in things. We have our health. We have a job, whether it's limited hours. We have the family. We have a government that's actually put into protective measures for the community, for Australia, and working with banks to delay payments and so forth. So there's so much to be looking for, and Cameron said it before, the gratitude, find things to be grateful for within this time. And I think that mindset, like you were saying, leaders, as you said, leaders' job, definitely. Certainty with your team, 100%, and a vision for the future. Coming out of this, what are we going to do? Let's aim for this. Let's now work towards this. Now this is a time to those teams that might be not have the best culture within their team that are falling apart. Now let's try and win back that sort of market share or have our product placement put in a lot better now. There's so many ways we can look at this.
I know that you might not say that, but I will say it. What if I was an employee right now? Let me tell you, I will watch what my leader did to me right now, because when this is finished, I will deal with them exactly the same way. If I am working for a leader who could not think team but only thought about himself right now, as soon as this is finished, I'm packing. I'm going. Because I'm going to be looking for a place where the next few years of my life is going to spend around the leader who worries about me as if I was family. That's the thing that I have, right? Unfortunately, for the salesperson too, there is a responsibility they have to have. I think an employee needs to now know we need to be accountable. If I was a salesperson right now, I would want to shine. Right now, I want to shine. I'd go out there and do whatever I've been doing times 2. Why? Because if my leader sees me right now doing times 2, whatever I used to do back then in normal times, what do you think is going to happen to me when COVID's finished? And this is the responsibility, I hope, that a lot of employees are starting to understand. This is not the time to go into hiding and wait for the COVID-19 to disappear. This is the time when you go out there and you do more. And you create more. You get whatever you had to get. I mean, how great is this that it's our generation? I mean, whether we employ or employee, when did we have in our living days the ability for mum and dad to have breakfast with us at whatever time they wish and then go to work?
It's true.
When did we have really as mum and dad the ability to spend, I mean, you got young kids, so it's fine, but I have older kids. That is the only good things about lockdown. They home. I've got the kids home. So on Saturday, it's like we're doing things together, and I've got the 25 and 26-year-old around me and helping, or 27 and helping. I mean, when was the last time? This is crazy bit. So I think as an employee, you have to look at all that and appreciate that we're going through these things. And I've got flexibility now in terms of time with a lot of people working from home. But what am I doing with myself right now? Am I a spectator or a driver?
We've down one bottle already. So while that pours, what are we going to go next?
Well, whatever you want, then, man.
Cam, your pick. Which one do you want? You want yours or you want mine?
Last bottle always wins, mate. So leave mine to last.
All right, we'll take mine. Mine's a Cab Sav and a Cabernet Franc. What's that, Thomas? It's another grape, obviously.
Yeah, it's another grape.
So should we be doing it or the Cab
should
Shiraz?
make it a little bit. Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine.
And
Open the lid for a bit. It's been in your cellar.
Oh, get lost, will you? I'm telling you.
Give time for all the cork to rise to the top.
2014? Is it 2014 Cab Sav from Cab Franc? And yes, it's been in my cellar. You know
I'm just trying to help you, mate. You air out red wine.
Listen, mate, the things he does to win, you don't understand.
Bloody white wine drinkers. I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah,
we never had to aerate a red wine before, have we?
Let's try this.
It gets air when you pour it. Look, lots of air. Blah, 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 blah. Lots of air.
Cheers, boys. So what is this wine? What is it, PM? Prime Minister?
It's
Property
Paul
management.
Nielsen, Paul Nielsen.
Oh, PN.
Paul Nielsen. It's a Western Australian wine. One of the wine club wines that they sent out. I've had this cellared for a couple of years, Cam. I don't think it's going to live up to Thomas's Shiraz, but
it's nice though. It's got very nice thing.
Give it 5 minutes.
I like that.
You have to like it, mate.
But I have to say that my Casella had a lot of depth. Yeah,
it was a good wine. That was a good wine.
It's because it cost him $300. A lot of tannins in that one, Crusoe. That suck your face off type of stuff.
bloody white wine drinkers.
I'm not bagging it, mate. We're talking about the wine. We're allowed to do that. Half of the title of well, that's a technical term. I've seen that written in a description somewhere.
That was suck your face off.
I'm trying to make it for the layperson to understand.
No, but going back to the employees, guys, I think it is an opportunity now for employees to really understand also the notion of work-life balance.
Yep.
I received a text from Darren lately. It was one of the quotes from Alain de Botton, the English philosopher, who spoke about work-life balance doesn't exist. When you're in pursuit of something, I'm just paraphrasing it. When you're in pursuit of something very much worthwhile, there's no more unbalance, and I don't believe in it. I think that work-life balance is something that you can pursue. It's never balanced, but you can pursue. Your work is one thing, but your life at home is also another thing. Work is only a very small part. You know, I don't think that man was created just to work. Man was created to probably live. And so at this point in time here, there's a lot of opportunity for both employees and employers to really seek that life balance, you know?
Yeah.
And I think, mate, in the near future, when COVID-19 is going to be finished, there's going to be a lot of people who understand it and won't go back onto a train and take a train and waste 2.5 hours in their life to go to the city to be in a building when can do the same amount of work and save the 2.5 hours to doing something else.
Yeah.
I think that the way that workforce in nice offices in the city, or it's going to be the way of the past.
Brilliant thing about what's happening now is we'll never go back to the way it was, and that big part of that is how much time people get to spend at home. It's another reason why, from an employee's point of view, the way when we spoke about it earlier, I'm sure I saw Thomas hit record, so it might be on this, it might be not, but now that you've got the opportunity to work, and I'll call it an opportunity to work limited hours, fucking work those limited hours, sprint those limited hours, and then enjoy the rest of your time at home. And what we'll find, what I'm expecting to find, more than hoping to find, expecting, is that results will actually increase, not decrease. At the very least, they'll be the same. The amount of work someone can get through in 4 hours, if that's all they've got to do, far outweighs the work that they'll have to do in 8 or 10 hours if they know that they've got 8 or 10 hours ahead of it. For an employee, just backing up what Thomas said earlier, regardless of your leader, here's the opportunity to show that you're one of the people that people want in the trenches with them.
Yeah.
That's the opportunity you've got now. Yeah, we had when we reduced our hours, a couple of our staff offered to take even bigger pay cuts. As I've already said, one guy left, a couple of guys are in the middle. All of the ones that stayed to a T said, yep, doesn't matter what our hours are, we're just going to work. Well, it only took one day to see who was actually going to do that, who left right on time for the short of their 4-hour shift. But that's the opportunity you guys have. If you're not happy with what your leader's done and you are planning payback when all this is over, you're still going to have to go to another leader.
Or bosses.
Or boss, yeah.
And you shouldn't work for boss. You should work for leaders.
No, 100%.
That's what we meant.
100%. But how you handle this situation, that's going to travel with you as well.
This time will also show a leader from a boss too.
Yeah, we've spoken about that, but we're talking about the employees for a second.
Yep.
I know, Chris. I know. All right. But if I've got to look at it from an employee's point of view, I was an employee once too. There was a time where both my leaders were in hospital at the same time, almost dead, with different afflictions. And the options were there. Hooray, the leaders aren't here. We can relax, or shit, the leaders aren't here, we better step up and go to work, because regardless, we owe it to them. They've got families too. We've all got families. Let's go to work. And there were some people in that office who didn't, some people in that office who didn't. That's the way I implore every employee who might hear this to look at it, regardless of your boss or your leader, because that's on you. That bit's on you. Mm-hmm. You can have the best leader in the world and still be a lazy prick. You could have the best leader in the world and still feel entitled and only do what you have to do, in air quotes, because there are people who are like that.
Yeah, but if you're a lazy prick, I think that the best leader will find a way to get rid of you very quickly.
Yeah, and you'll have no one to blame but yourself when that happens.
At that point in time, this is how I think the distribution will work. Lazy idiots will find bosses, and great workers will find leaders. Yeah,
and I 100% agree with you, Chris. There's bosses and there's leaders, and there isn't a minute that goes by where I don't wonder where I'm at the spectrum and question every single decision that gets made, mate. It's not easy.
No.
I've got a criticism for you here, Chris. We mates. We talk ourselves as like we 3 musketeers. You're down. You're not even talking to us. What's wrong? What kind of friendship is this? Are we just a friendship of good times? Is it like wine and wisdom shit when things are going fine?
I told you that too. I said if I ever fucking ring you again, and he said to me, "Oh, you're always telling me not to whinge and just to get on with it," so I didn't want to ring you. And I'm like, well, that's fucking bullshit. Yeah. That's a bullshit call.
Yeah, look, it's
because this isn't a normal.
And this is probably one of the issues I have a lot. And it's not just the other day. I mean, it's my entire life. And I don't think I'm in the only one in the boat.
It is only you
saying this. I think it's an ego thing. I honestly think it's an ego thing. I think it's something that, I'm not a young bloke. I should be able to get through this. I should be able to work through these in my head, work it out, and move forward. And I don't probably reach out for help when I should. And it's not help. It's just reach out to have a chat with a mate.
If someone rings you and asks if you're okay and how you're doing, you should be able, regardless of the ego, especially if it's a mate, to go, having a bad day. Like I rang you that morning and I could tell, and I threw about 6 different things at you to try and get you to open up. Some direct, some very indirect, just to see. And I knew you were fucked, mate. You were having a real bad morning and you didn't want to talk about it. And it was just so happened I spoke to him that afternoon and he said, have you spoken to Chris? How do you reckon he's going? And I said, no, good. Yep. When I did ring you again, as I said to you, mate, don't ever fucking do that. You don't, and I know it's hard to pick up the phone sometimes, but especially if the phone's been brought to you. Yeah. Well, if you can't vent to us, who the fuck can you vent
to? You're right, man. No, you're right, and that's one of my shortcomings, and I understand that. And I'm very not only self-analytical, self-critical. That's one of my shortcomings. Long term, you need to understand that you will come through that on the other side, and sometimes you need to work through that shit. But working through that shit may be quicker, like you said, Cam. Is picking up that phone.
Well, maybe it's also a realisation, and I'm not just pointing this at you, but I know the conversations we've had. So sometimes you're venting about shit, and that's when I say, shut up, and just go to work. Yeah. This isn't one of those situations, mate. Yeah. Like we're in a predicament here where unprecedented is the word that's getting thrown around. No venting that goes on in this situation is going to be unwarranted. It might not be the right mindset and it might not be the right solution, but that's what we're here to work through. When you call me and say, I don't want to make any more phone calls, I'll tell you to fuck off.
But on the other side of that mindset, you understand that that's the right thing to do. But when you're in that mindset, you don't want to be calling people. You're there and you're going, I need to work through this. I know what I need to be doing. I'm smart enough, I've read enough books and listened to enough people and gone to enough fucking seminars to understand how to get through this. I'm telling you what's going through my head, right?
Yeah,
I should be able to work through this, and I will work through this. But this is what's going through my head, right? And you have all the shit thoughts and the negative. Sometimes it's not shit thoughts. It's working scenarios out and feelings that you're having yourself, right? Whether it's you're feeling unjustly dealt, or there's not a lot of certainty, or you're feeling insecure, or you're not able to do it, or for whatever those negative connotations are, you need to work through those. Not saying that it's not the right thing to be calling someone to help you to get to the other side of that. What I'm saying is when you're going through that, it's not easy to pick up the phone to ask someone to help. Listen, why am I doing this?
No, it's never easy, but it should be between mates, and it's probably easier if we haven't had disagreements in the past over rubbish. You look at the scale of problems we've had to face, right?
Yeah.
Whether I've got to do 50 prospecting calls or I don't know whether I've still got a job and there's a pandemic gripping the world, and they're on different ends of the spectrum, right? Yeah. But the way it came across to me when we spoke the second time was I didn't feel like I could call you because every time I call you with a whinge, you tell me to pull my head in. Yeah. Mate, that's when you call me and tell me you can't do 50 fucking prospecting calls.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've ever called you to say that.
Got to be, hang on, mate. I've got the video. Hang on, brother. Be careful going down that rabbit hole. Be careful going down that rabbit hole.
Bring up the video evidence.
But if another positive can be taken out of this, it's almost the boy who cried wolf scenario, where now we know we're working out what's important in the world and what isn't. And losing your shit and losing sleep over, and I'll just say 50 prospecting calls, and as I said, it's not directed at you, but it's to show the scale of the situation.
Yeah.
All right? Ringing up to complain and going into a shit mindset because you got to do a couple of extra prospecting calls versus having trouble with your mindset in a global fucking pandemic where no one knows what the hell is going on. Yeah. If anything, if another silver lining in all this is, hang on, whinging about all that other shit probably isn't worth it. But maybe whinging about some of that other shit is the reason why when something really fucking important's happening and really tough to deal with, from all of us, you've already heard TL say he's had moments himself.
Yeah.
You weren't able to pick up the phone.
Yeah. But I've never have been able to.
You have, mate, because you've called me to whinge about rubbish before.
But not in that situation. I've
never been in this situation before.
But okay, well, I'm talking about similar mindsets that I had on that day. And I've had conversations.
So is that ego, TL? Is it ego that says I can call someone?
I think it is, but I maybe
I can call someone and ask for help because I can't do enough prospecting calls. but I can't call someone and ask for help because I'm worried my future has just come to an end. Like, sorry to be dramatic. Why can we call someone and ask for help when it's rubbish? And why can't we call someone and ask for help when in our own heads, our life is on the line, in our own heads? Not.
Yeah, but we're putting everything under ego, but ego is a big term.
I'm just asking, is that what you mean by ego?
No, it's got a very, very big thing. In the end, really, ego is about about the fear of being judged on ideas, So there are some times when you don't want to call someone because you know what you're going through is your own doing and it's not right to feel. So you feel that ego need of being protected. Then there's also the ego of I'm going through something that I know is unjust and it's making me feel bad. I mean, how is my life? How am I going to pay these bills? And making sure my life has got all of those savings for private schools, for example. And I don't feel the need to open up to anyone. That's another side. So it's not ego protection, but it's almost an ego of my own privacy that I want to deal with this problem myself. I mean, one of the things that I would probably ask Chris is earlier he said, there are times like this, I don't want to call people. And I thought that we were not people. I thought we were his mates. So it's already different, If we were his brothers, would he call? I would say that he would. Maybe we're not good mate enough.
Yeah, so what have we done, you bastard?
And this is the thing that I sometimes struggle. That in Australia, we use the term mate sometimes. I'm starting to define it as meaning friend for good times, where I am very much the kind of guy that treats everyone as an acquaintance, as someone I know. But when he becomes my friend, my mate, I'm in the trenches, whatever he needs. And so I don't have the terms mate just for the good times. I have the terms mates for the good times, the bad times, the times when they need to be told off because I can see them going in the wrong direction. All of those times. So maybe that's why I'm different. But to put it all under the terms of ego, my ego is huge.
Yeah.
You want to know about the terms ego? Get the books called The Course in Miracle, 1,200 something pages. Start reading.
Is it on Audible?
It's the same. It's the same issue we were talking about before, where I said you can't have all these issues and not talk to the person who you feel is creating those issues with your boss/leader, leader/boss. It's the same thing. So in one sense, you're not picking up the phone to us who are your mates. Mate. We've got lots of different uses for mate. Like
I know.
when we're fighting, it's fuck off, mate. You want your go, mate. So you've got to be, it's which mate are you talking about? And then when you're drunk, it's mate.
Love you, mate.
Love you, mate. But it's that same thing that, I don't know, is it the same thing that stopped you picking up the phone to asking for, or just saying, mate, I'm struggling? Is it the same thing that stops you going to your leader or boss and instead of...
But when I'm in like that, I don't go to anyone.
Yeah,
and,
so
and,
I'm
and
saying
that's
it's
the
the
thing.
same
I
issue.
don't go to anybody. It's something that I feel I need to get through myself, and I'm not in a freaking the life raft myself on this. I know that I don't go to anyone, whether it's a mate that I've known for 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, my best friend, my wife, or whoever it is. I don't go to anyone. It's something that I expect myself to be able to get through. Now, is that my own
pride?
Okay.
So in this respect, I think that ego is ego pride.
Ego pride instead of ego strength.
And the reason we're talking about this thing is that with these tough times, there's a lot of men who were someone because they had a good job and they've lost it with COVID. There's a lot of people who've been put off and are now contemplating selling their home, their possessions. There's a lot of people who have built, I'm constantly thinking about that Troy Rhodes in the Hunter Valley with his Muse restaurant, who's building a big reputation for himself. And now with all of this, it's destabilizing everything. So should those guys go beyond their pride and really talk it out? Because when you talk it out, you always find some kind of logic that you can cling on to, Or do they just do like what a lot of men do and go into their little hole, and sometimes some of them can't even get out and then do silly things with themselves or their family. So I think that this is a time, and there's going to be more and more of that. I didn't know we were going to go into this subject today, but it's a bloody good subject, and maybe we should. And
it's a natural transition, mate, because even in our business, it's the same thing. There's a lot of people who were high-flying a month ago who now aren't, and there's a lot of uncertainty with employees, which is what the whole basis of this, but that flows off into everything.
So, but I wonder whether really employees are thinking about this shit, man.
Maybe not understanding what's going on, but like Chris, they're not picking up the phone and they're not talking to. If they're not clear on the guidelines being given by the leader, they're not talking to the leader about it. Maybe they are keeping to themselves, just not understanding why they're doing it. One of the biggest human needs, and especially for men, is significance. A lot of men have lost their significance in the last 3 or 4 weeks, and that's going to be tough to deal with. But there'll be a lot of people sitting there not having feelings, not understanding what those feelings are or where those feelings have come from. So I think, and it's been my fear all along, ever since this thing started. I think there hasn't been a podcast that's gone by where we haven't mentioned the men and what is going to happen if things go really, really pear-shaped for men our age. And it's all our ages. Like, I'm 37, TL's 47, you're 77, mate. It's all that age. It's all that age bracket that's it.
I'm younger than him, right? You know that, right? I just want to clarify that.
And you've mentioned war, TL, and it's funny because we had that conversation. I've been reading the same sort of books, but last time we were at war, I call it a real war, the last time, say World War II, the men didn't lose significance because the men got to don a uniform and get a gun and go overseas and fight for their country. So what's the version of that now that we can point your friend who had Muse and everyone else we know that struggled? Where are they going to find significance in this? How are they picking up a uniform, a slouchy hat and a gun? We're coming into Anzac Day. The thing that gave the Anzac pride and the Anzac spirit, and the thing that carried on for many, many, many years, was the ability that when the shit hit the fan and when the world was literally coming to an end, they got to go and defend it. They got to stick that hat on, that slouch hat. They got to, we got to stop the Japanese at Kokoda, and we got to win the Battle of the Somme, and we got to do these things that gave us that pride. And many men tried and many men died. What's our version of that in these times? Because we can't. How are we putting on that slouch hat and keeping our significance in those times now?
But maybe we don't have to pick up the hat of significance.
Well, you said before we're in a time of war, so we do. We have to.
We don't need significance, because I'm just thinking, what about our women? What about the women who have been going up and up and up the echelon, fighting in a world where men are always at the top?
Women
and right now, it's all taken back. And they have to go home and teach kids.
Women are allowed in the army now. And back, if I use the same analogy, mate, most of them turned themselves into nurses or went on the production line to create ammunition. They had a purpose too, where they were defending their country. So what is the 2020 version? We're fighting this invisible war against something that we know nothing about and we can't control. People are suffering a similar loss of significance, a similar loss of helplessness. But instead of being pushed, being able to go to a factory and make bullets, and instead of being able to pick up a gun and go and shoot that enemy that's attacking us, women and men are now in a position where I've got to homeschool the kids and I've just lost the family's income. And there's no one to go and shoot over it. You can't go and shoot some Germans.
No. I think that you just mentioned something that I thought it'd be worth mentioning. Anzac Day is coming, Saturday. And I hope that many of our offices are really going to try and locate some of these Anzac veterans and make them feel special on Saturday, because I think this is going to be the first time that they are not parading. This is the first time that they are going to be in total isolation, many of them complete, shut down, lockdown, whatever you want to call it. So maybe we can do something special for them. But it's funny that you talk about Anzac, because I think that the second thing that we can do is to emulate the spirit of the Anzac. I don't think that I'm going to talk about the ego, but it is time maybe for all of us to step up. I said it at the beginning. We are not in shutdown. We haven't been asked to close our businesses. It's time for us to really do our duty. And our duty is to sell houses, to move people, to help people. I think that chefs must cook their best meal and find a way to put it in the hands of the consumers. I think that the electrician should really install the best light fittings right now, find a way of creating better lighting. I think that real estate agents really need to help people continue to achieve the Australian dream. That is us doing our duty. Yep. There's a movie, boys. It's called Danger Close, Battle of Long Tan.
I was going to put it on last night, but it was 2 hours.
What a great movie. Even though it happened northeast of where I was born. I was born in Saigon. So the Battle of Long Tan just happened to be off town and towards the sea. And the battle only lasts actually one afternoon, 4 hours. There's so many lessons in it. This morning, I was up at 2:15. I went downstairs 2:40, and I wanted to watch it again. I say that I learn from books I read, the people I meet, but also the movie I watch. And it's just crazy. In that movie, in that battle, 18 Australian soldiers lost. People who've never been on the battlefield before. The average age was, I think, 20. And they lost 18 people. Now, apparently, the other side lost 245. Okay, the Vietnamese lost 245. But it was the way it was done. Harry Smith was a major back then. He's a lieutenant colonel now. And he actually used to be a parachutist. And he thought it was an insult to have brand new people thrown at him for him to train. But by the end, he had so much respect for them that up until about a few years ago, he actually fought for 50 years to try and give his people, the soldiers that died and the soldiers that came home, actually more recognition and better medals. This is amazing. So the war happens for 4 hours for him. But for the following 50 years, he spent everything he had to go and help those people. I think that's the relationship that we, employers and employees, should have. That the employers should look after the employees with every ounce in them. And the employees should really do the best they can to make the trust that their leader has entrusted into them worthwhile. What a great movie. And I think that is the spirit of Anzac. You look at the things, there's a few lines in the Anzac, and I wrote them down. At one stage, Major Smith asked a guy, what's the most important thing in the battle? And try and think this in terms of business now. You guys in business, right? And the soldiers, and I think it was Paul Sarge who died on the battlefield. He said, killing the enemy. The major responded by saying, no, trust. You have to trust the man beside you, and he has to trust you. We're on the battlefield right now. We're conducting a business. Are those guys trusting me to look after, watch their back? And do I trust them? That's the key. Or am I going to concoct something behind enemy lines about how to take advantage of them? 1,500, reduce their thing, otherwise, they can go. Is that real leadership? There's another thing at one stage, Platoon 11. Platoon 11 was about to be overrun by the VCs, right? They were right on the forefront. And at one stage, one of the privates said, target my position, because I think that Doug, I forget his name, the leader died. And the VC started to come close to them. So he said to them, just target my position. I don't care what you do. Shoot all the stuff, right? The major had to call on that thing. And he had to throw on the decision. And someone said, well, if I do this, you're going to have to take the responsibility. And he said, I will take that bloody responsibility. And I think it's just crazy, man. But then he showed, because this is a question I want to ask you, because you're a sales manager, so you better think about this while I'm saying this. Because at one stage, the colonel back at base, because most leaders fight from the base, they said, we want you to retreat and come back to base. But Platoon 11, he did not know whether they were all dead, right? So Major Smith, he replied and he said, listen, you can go and fuck your orders. We all go back or no one does. I mean, to me, all right, it's a movie, so maybe it's a bit extrapolated. But in these times of COVID, I think that leaders should go, I don't care about losing my house. We all go and win, and every one of you be looked after, or we're not going home. There's no such thing as, I have to look after my family, and the $1,000 will help me, and this. No. We all go there. And I think that is the spirit of Anzac. That is the spirit of people at war. We think that we're at war against a virus, but we still behave like people who were on the other side of the screen, the silver screen. We're still freaking spectator. And I think that that's wrong. I don't know. You want the spirit of Anzac? You might want to get a few Anzac. They're still alive. Major Smith, he lives on the Sunshine Coast. A few other veterans actually live around him. And, these guys still cry these days when you talk about this stuff. I hear about some people who talk about PTSD and all that crap, Mate, these guys really have PTSD and they don't blame anyone for it.
You can't go through something like that and move on from it. An life experience like that, you can't. And funnily enough, I only watched that movie a couple of weeks ago for the first time. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Great movie. And yeah, you can't move, experience like something like that in life and move on that quickly. whether it'll last you a lifetime.
Do you know, I think that the movie, there is a sequel that they have to do. The movie depicted the battle. And I've done a bit of research because, I mean, since 2 whatever this morning, you can't just watch the movie, right? So I watched the movie and then I did my research. And I found out, for example, that the Brigadier General, I think it's Jackson, and then Colonel Townsend, both of them were back at base, wrote the history of the battle in their own way. And because of the 30-year secrecy that Australia has about whatever governmental paper it being secret, no one really could talk about this. But those 2 guys rewrote the history and wrote down the act of these guys on the field.
Yeah, right.
And what happened is that these guys have not received the medal they deserved. Like one of the guys, and you were talking about it earlier, boys, his name was Jack Kirby. And Jack Kirby was a guy who was a bit plumb. He was not as fit as those 20-year-olds, but he had spent a lot of time around Major Smith. And he, during those 4 hours of fighting, if you talk to people who were around, they will still say the same thing, is that he used to move between soldiers and he'd go to them and say, "How you going, mate? Do you know any of those guys are over there?" And he tried to calm them down. And they'd say, "No, man, I don't know any of those VC coming at me." Then shoot anyone you don't know, all right? And then he would just go and talk to everyone. So much so that some of these guys still remember that today. I mean, he didn't die in the battle. He died 6 months later on, mind you, and that was due to friendly bombing. Wow. So that was the New Zealanders bombers that just bombed his position by mistakes, right? But this is the story of guys. And we in the business right now, we worry about not making money. Just you don't want to worry about not making money. Go and make money. Go and listing. Go and do things you haven't done before. These guys, they were not fighting for commission. You know, they were fighting. Many of these guys were going to go home to get married. Many of these guys, like Major Smith, he had 3 children. I think 1 son and 2 daughters. And he was away from home. So think about these boys. Let's imagine us now having to fight the coronavirus, okay? But we now fighting it on the battlefront, and you have your 2 children at home with your wife, you with your 2, and my 4 are home with my wife. Now we can compare ourselves to them. And let's imagine that the coronavirus can fire a bullet at us and kill us on the spot. Not one of those things where, you know, if you have a ventilator, you might make it. So let's stop talking about these bullshit about a little bit of security and I don't have money. It's there. Go and grab it. When you get shot at, then we can talk. That's the key. And that's why I believe whether you're an employer or an employee, we all in the same battlefront, in the same fight. We're going to have to stop looking for excuses, logical excuses, mind you, about how to use the $1,500 to look after ourselves. Very silent, boys.
I'm just enjoying my really good wine. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't know, mate. I think you're 100% right. All you can do is go down swinging if you're going to go down. You just ask yourself too many questions. It's out there, you go and get it. And I know for one that we haven't stopped trying to go out and get it. We really haven't.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the leaders that are out there, mate. The leaders of the restaurant business, the leader of the dance club that had to close, the leader of that bar. I mean, there's plenty of stuff.
Yeah, you've got to adapt and overcome.
Absolutely.
And it's Darwin's line. It's not the strongest or the fittest that will survive. It's the ones that adapt the quickest to change. It's just breaking out of that initial mindset because there's a shock. A bomb goes off beside you, there's a shock. You get shell shock. And
that's what's Sunday, 10 o'clock, mate. 10:05, we need to get going.
You need to overcome the concussion, work out which way's up, and then keep running. That is the answer. That is the slouch hat. That is the gun that I was talking about. That a lot of guys will be feeling like all hope is lost. But, restaurants are a great example. And so anyone who owns a business or owns a restaurant or has gone through an apprenticeship to be a chef, like, fuck, you had to peel potatoes for 2 years before you're allowed to cook a meal. You fought before and you'll fight again. You just have to find that new way of doing it. But you won't do it sitting on your ass. And I know, mate, the pressure of the bills and all that stuff's going to be there. But it's always there. Then find me a restaurant owner who's making fucking millions of dollars, and I'll show you George Columbaris, who's underpaid everyone for 20 years and had to sell all this shit.
George who?
Exactly.
The only ones who seem to be making it are the ones that are getting done for underpaying their staff millions and millions of dollars for years. The fight's in there, and I know your last podcast, Thomas, was finding the purpose in all, or finding something to have a purpose, you know, and that is man's search for meaning and have that purpose. But I think we're lucky in a sense that we've got enough people around us to give us that slap in the face. The people I feel mostly for are the people who don't have those people around them to give them that slap in the face. And that's, maybe I'm too feeling for everybody, but a lot of people don't have someone to give them the slap in the face and say, you've done it once before, you can fucking do it again. If you manage to build a muse, then you've got the skills and the work ethic and the everything you need to do it again.
Understand.
I mean, regardless of what you mean, regardless of what you think of the man, or regardless of how much is true, the narrative is Donald Trump's been bankrupt twice. I don't know the ins and outs of that, and now he's a fucking Donald Trump.
He's too big a subject
I
for today.
saw him fucking 2 days ago say that America's handled the virus better than any other country. Anyway, the point is he's doing all right for him. Sorry, I shouldn't have used him as an example, but I think the slouch hat is people realising that if they were once something, then they've got all the attributes to be something again. Yeah. So waiting for it to happen is not going to happen. You know, one of the things I look for in hiring people is tradies and sports people who have played at an elite level. My theory behind tradies is apprenticeships are fucked. You get paid.
But you know, I got an SMS from you about talking to some of your mates, maybe because they're in the trades. Do you know, I have no tradies ever called me here and said, listen, how old is your air conditioning? With the government now, $20,000 back for your business, I can work something so that, you know, I can install you a new air conditioning and it'll be paid in 2 months, because before the 30th of June, you can claim the $20,000 back. You know, there's always a way of thinking in mate. Not one has called me. If I was to run an air conditioning
But who's
system,
telling him to think that way? That's my worry. We got people around us, mate.
They're your mate. Tell them, TL podcast, we talked about it on the Wisdom podcast on the 21st. We just spoke about it.
You know, listen, the tradies are too busy to be calling you because they're essential workers and they're still working.
No, they're not, mate. That's the thing. I've got too many people around me who have phones have stopped calling for them, and they don't have the advice around them. They don't, because look, when I ran my gym, I'm glad I don't own the gym now, right? But let's be honest, when I ran the gym, cash only business, right? So how would I be looking right now for tax relief from the government or JobKeeper or any of that? When I ran the gym, my accountant was whoever picked up the phone at ITP or any of those fucking corner store tax return agencies that you would speak to for 5 minutes a year. There was no business advice. There was no financial advice. There was no running the books. You know, it was a cash business.
Yep.
So the reason I sent you that text message is all my mates where I was, and they don't have, like, I'm all real estate agents. There's a massive difference in real estate agents. Well, that goes across the board. There's a massive difference in financial advisors and accountants and all that sort of thing. I've left one and gone to another. The difference in advice I got from the first one to the second one is immeasurable as far as the quality and how it's managed to keep us heading in the right direction and keep all my employees employed, even though we had to reduce their hours. What my financial person has been able to do for them, because he's a human being and cares about humans, is fucking unbelievable. Could have been so much different. The thing I have is a bunch of people my age who have, mate, done the hard yards. They're builders, they're electricians, they're plumbers, they're this and that, but they haven't got a fucking clue.
That's their fault.
I'm not saying it's not.
I'm a hard guy on that.
I'm not saying it's not their fault. Okay, I'm not. The first thing I said is you've got to educate yourself.
That's right.
Right? I had a conversation with a chef in the middle of Bunnings that nearly ended in tears because he had no clue about the new mandated laws for commercial tenancies. The thing that was going to sink him was the 2 premises that he was leasing. Had no idea he could get a discount. He was about to close both his companies to get out of the leases. So the first thing I said was, fuck, you've got to educate yourself. If you're in a position where your business could be in trouble, or as an employee you could be in trouble, or any of that shit, the first thing you got to do is look for information around it. I get it. But a lot of people don't go into that mindset. They're still shell-shocked because the bomb's gone off beside them. They don't have the people around them to punch them on the chin and go, fucking wake up to yourself and do some research.
No, they got you in the middle of Bunnings.
Yeah, but if I didn't go to Bunnings, if I didn't have to escape the family in the middle of Easter because we'd been locked in the same house for 4 days, if I didn't go to Bunnings to buy nothing, just to fucking walk around for an hour, there's at least 2 people who wouldn't have got that punch in the face. One was an investor who owns a few properties who had he was that scared, he was white. He goes, Cam, if my tenants leave, I'm fucked. If they stop paying rent, I'm fucked. Had no idea about the new rules that have been brought out, had no idea that tenants still need to follow. Now, I blame him for not getting his own education. I blame his property manager for not educating him on it, being proactive.
How come you knew about those new rules?
Because I've educated myself when shit started.
When did you know about those rules?
As soon as they came out.
When was that? Compared to those that day that you met them in Bunnings?
The commercial...
A week before?
No, so the rental...
Roughly. Did you know about that shit like 2 weeks before?
No, because I've quoted it. The new residential stuff had only come out the morning of.
The morning of. Oh, that's all right. He would have found out the next day.
Right, but the commercial tenancy stuff had been out for a week.
Then that guy was late by 7 days.
Yes.
Do you know, this is the thing.
I
think in many ways, I understand Darwin even in business. The people who evolve and follow news and get these things, they will survive and thrive. The people who are like dinosaurs and think that because they now have passed the age of 18, therefore they've got a degree for no longer learning and then okay with being ignorant, well, they will die. That's the law of Darwin, man. There's nothing else to evolution, man. So don't feel sorry for people who are, to me, lazy. If I have a few properties like that mate of yours, he's not going to like me, like that mate of yours, and I have a family depending on this, and I don't even go online to find out what's my right now, I deserve to lose it all. Man.
Yeah, I haven't taken any responsibility away from them, but at the same time, I know you're a bloke who doesn't let your mate sink. If you can do anything about it, you don't, and you're on the fucking record of saying that.
I understand that.
Right, so
but I'm not talking about what you do for them. I'm talking about what he's done for himself. Yeah. Okay.
That's the first thing I put on him when I have those conversations is, mate, fucking ring someone and ask.
That's right. I mean, people can do that stuff. You know, it's unless they won't call.
We didn't know.
Not those kind of guys.
Didn't know.
They don't call people. They don't call people for help.
We didn't know, mate. We didn't know, and that's why we didn't make any decisions. We didn't know the answers, and that's why you couldn't cut hours and adjust rosters or let people go or fucking do anything because we didn't have the information. In our essence, I said a week ago that we were lucky that we had people in the right position. We still fucking called them though.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we've got Reef and yes, we've got a great accountant, but if we didn't pick up the phone and actually fucking call them.
Yeah, you got to educate yourself.
So everyone knows the Department of Fair Trading exists. Everyone knows Fair Work Australia exists. There is no excuse for not at least trying. But to break the shell shock, that's what I'm talking about. To snap out of it enough to go, fucking call the Department of Fair Trading. I worry for the people who don't have that around them. Mate, I could call everyone on my phone list, but you forget, I did call. I made it a point as soon as this stuff happened of calling 5 people a day. Going through my phone, some I hadn't spoken to for 20 years, but I missed the chef. I didn't bump into, he didn't register to me. I didn't bump into him till Bunnings. The guy who owns a couple of houses, we're acquaintances, we're not mates. So he's in my phone but didn't register to me. You can't call everybody.
Yeah.
You know, no matter how hard you try, there's going to be someone who slips through. So, yes, you got to educate yourself. But we've always talked about, and one of your key things that you preach, TL, is association. A lot of people don't have it, mate. And those people are the ones I worry about.
My only thing is that first you had to worry about your own home too. You talk about record. Now, I can talk about record. The only reason I knew about your issue was that I spoke to him that day. I hadn't spoken to him for 10 days.
He didn't write back to one.
So what was your issue of not talking to me for 10 days?
He didn't reply to my text messages.
Oh, here you go. So was it?
Thought you needed your space, mate.
So was it about your ego somewhere?
No, it was
or was it about people?
Have you not worked out Thomas is not the best of texters?
No,
His text
no, mate.
aren't very in
there
detail.
There was all sorts
It's
of
like,
things
be
involved,
here,
but
10 a.m.
I knew why he wasn't writing back to me, and I was right on those things. So it doesn't make it right or wrong, but we didn't speak.
He's the creator of the law assumption. The law of assumption is very simple.
Was my assumption.
If I-
Ass out of you and me.
If I create enough conspiracy theories, one of them may be the real one.
Was I right?
Nostradamus.
Was I right?
Out of the 50,000, yes.
There was two. There was two, and I was right about both.
By the time we got to the 50,000,
There was two, and I was close to right.
no, you know,
But yeah, right. Well, mate, the same thing. But and I can say this wholly and solely, regardless of whatever ego was involved in that, there are people who needed your help more than I did at that point. So if we didn't speak for a few days or 10 days or whatever it was, regardless of what was going on and the reasons that was for, part of that is too that you're a man who. It's funny because you sit there and you go, "Oh, my mates, it's my mates. It's their fault that they're not." But you're also a bloke who tries to fucking save everyone, mate. So you
yeah,
do,
but that's
and
my
you do.
that's my fault too, you know.
So I'm allowed to try and like I try and help. Like
Maybe
yes,
I'm,
they should pick up a book, but at
maybe
least
I'm
I should.
stealing their opportunity to grow.
At least I should ring them up.
I'm robbing them.
Yeah, but if they sink, mate, they can't. If they drown, no one's growing from the grave.
I understand.
Right.
Listen, but in regards to the information that you were talking about, it was widely available. I think that in regards to picking people up, we're doing enough. People don't understand it. They think that our wine and wisdom is just my thing. It's not. If it was my thing, I would never have this kind of session. I'd do it, but just by myself.
Yeah.
I was telling someone lately, I don't like these podcasts because I don't want a podcast to be just like people use success to define themselves. Podcast does not define me. And so all my life, I have followed one guy as, which one you opening now?
My one.
Okay, so which one is that?
It's taken too long to get through Chris's.
Hang on. I'll go and see if the guys want another try.
Right.
So I don't know whether I've let myself down or not, but I don't think we've picked a name brand wine for this entire podcast
No, that's
since we
correct.
started.
Yeah, usually they're in the $600.
No, but usually they're not the first thing you see when you walk into a bottle shop.
Yeah,
Penfolds, everyone knows who Penfolds are.
yeah.
So I've brought in a Penfolds and I thought, shit, have I gone the easy route? But it's not a Penfolds I've ever seen before. This one's called Max's. It's funny because one of those mates I was trying to help, his name was Max.
Right.
But this is a Shiraz cab. It's a 2016 from South Australia. It's called Max's after their winemaker, who was their winemaker from 1948 to 1975, Max Schubert. And obviously we've interviewed a couple of winemakers from the Hunter Valley and they don't think much of the name brands and the ones that get trotted out all the time. But Penfolds has a half-decent reputation. When I saw this, I thought, yeah, fuck it. Let's give it a go. So
It's 2016, the one you have.
2016. I knew I was going to bring a red to I was going to bring a knife to a gunfight because the two gentlemen in air quotes beside me only ever bring in reds. So I went the youngest I could find, and it was 2016.
All right, we better try this, man.
It's guaranteed to be nicer than Chris's.
Mate, you're talking it up now, seriously.
So where were we? What happened? What were we
Just talking about how you said I can't save everyone and you try and save everyone. No, you were saying that you don't like doing the podcast because people who are trying to get 5 minutes of fame, that's not what it's about.
No. And I think I grew up listening to the songs by a French guy, Jean-Jacques Goldman. All those songs were all about be the best you can be, but no more. And so for me, the pursuit of success, of fame, of becoming someone, it's not interesting to me. The pursuit of who I am, that is more interesting to me. And so I don't like podcasts when I have people now starting to write back and saying this. I'm not interested. It makes me feel really uncomfortable. And a friend of mine said, well, that's why you need to continue, because it means that you will still go on content, not about what you do. And I like the one wisdom. People don't get it. it's not just about three guys drinking wine, getting pissed, and then saying stuff.
No,
I
that's a big
listen to
part
them.
of it.
There's enormous amount of substance. Sometimes they only have to go in 5 minutes, and it's enough for them to really grow to a next level. Now, if they had just the 5 minutes and the 3 bottles of wine with us, they really will go to a next level.
We got to sprint. See, what we're doing here is not dragging it out over 8 hours. It's a 1 hour sprint, and we're being productive. How's the wine?
Very nice. But I will say that mine's the best.
No,
today.
wait.
Oh, really?
That is.
I will have to say
Wait
that
for it. Back off, Chris.
Sorry.
One thing we had
Like a knife to a gunfight, all right.
that phone call was 2 hours that we had.
yeah.
After 10 days, and
What's all the bonuses gathered?
I did not understand for an hour and 59 minutes of it why you were against me doing my podcasting, right? But the one line you threw out and it took you an hour and 59 minutes, which made it all make sense, is it's not the 15 minutes you're doing it for, it's the 6 hours you spend thinking about doing it. So in that essence, I get what you're saying. And in these times, every waking minute needs to be on fighting the good fight. I don't do that stuff, and I didn't start that stuff for fame, even though I have a massive ego. It started off with my kids, and then when all this shit happened, the first things I did were talk to an accountant and talk to a teacher, because they were the things we were struggling with at home, money and fucking homeschool. But when you pointed out, and it took you an hour and 59 minutes of me not wanting but that one line.
So, how's the shell shock?
Yeah, I just got to pull a fucking few fragments out.
No, but
No, I was just, yeah.
I think that friends should tell each other like real stuff rather than just, cocoon stuff. As long as you see that the friend is there for you. And quite often I say this to people, between employees, same, or between mates, the same thing. You don't have to question everything that a mate's done for you. You just have to look at the history. If you know the history that person has been nice to me, has been real tough, has been a prick, but it's always with the best intention, and every single time the intention really come. Just go with that. I find that a lot of people, they make a mistake, is that when they don't hear the things they don't like, or they don't hear the things that they like, they re-question the relationship. This is a funny bit. Why do you question the relationship or even the quality of the person because you didn't get the message you want? What about understanding this? The person is like the speaker. If the sound comes out that you like from the speaker, do you like the speaker? Let's say that it's the Bose speaker. You go, well,
I prefer JBL, but yes.
Okay, you like JBL. Some people like a Bose. Okay, so let's put it that way. Do you have JBL speakers?
I do.
Oh, okay, all right.
JBL
then let's talk about JBL. All right.
How good is? Can we just get an honest opinion on this one? Because you were carrying on just because it's better than yours.
No, it's okay.
You don't rate it. Tell us why you don't rate it. Give us something.
No, it's just
I don't mind it.
Don't hurt his ego, man.
No, give us a technical. I said yours sucked my face off. Give me a technical analysis of the Penfolds 2016.
I don't know. Maybe it's the 2 bottles that we've already gone through. I don't know, but it doesn't sit well on the palate.
Thomas, can you give a fucking...
It's a bit young and there's not a lot of body in it.
Not a lot of body, I'll give it that.
I don't know whether
It's very smooth, though.
I don't know whether you can keep it longer, though, man. I think, personally, it's not because I brought it, but I think the Casella had huge depth.
Yeah, it was great wine.
It had a huge depth. It kept on going like this.
Funny how yours always have huge depth.
No, because my last time he got
your
it.
ass out of the cellar. From the cellar.
I'm being nice.
Last time, Chris owned us. What are you talking about?
It's nothing worse than just trying to ask an honest question and getting a fucking...
Do you not like the sound of this speaker?
No.
No, but that's what I was talking. If you don't like the sound of the speaker, do you now question the JBL speaker? This is the thing that a lot of people do. They don't like what they hear from someone, so suddenly JBL is now shit. Until they hear what they want to hear, they will re-question every single time the quality of the speaker. I think it's wrong. Once you have defined that the speaker, the person that you're listening to, the mentor that you have has always a capacity of telling you the right thing. You gotta have to trust that speaker. You can't re-question it because the message is not what you want to hear.
I didn't re-question it. I just didn't talk to it for 10 days.
I didn't talk to
I turned the speaker off.
No, in his thing, there wasn't ego pride, it was ego fear.
I just turned the speaker off, mate. I know it's still sound. I know it's still going to talk to me.
When you turn it back on,
Speakers have a PowerPoint for a reason.
but being different to a speaker, he did not sleep for days.
They can turn on and off.
I think the people that
That's the only difference between the speaker and me is that the speaker you know tomorrow is still there.
It's got a mute button.
that's from the remote control, mate.
Hey.
Control. Coming back to what you're saying about the speaker,
Chriso didn't want to hear any of his speakers, mate. He's surrounded by you got surround sound, mate. You didn't want to hear any of them. You were just like,
that's true.
I'm going back to the old fucking tin cup and string where I can't really.
No, mate, he said it at the beginning. He had the pride. Like, it's like,
We get pride at the worst times. We don't have pride, and I know, don't take it fucking personally, but the metaphor is...
This is about unleashing yourself.
No, why don't we have...
Don't take it personally now about
No, because we talked about it before and I directed at him, but why don't you have too much pride to ring up and say, my boss wants me to prospect, but you've got too much pride to ring out and say...
I've never fucking called you to say that.
I just said it wasn't about you.
Oh, okay. Rightio. Rightio, go on.
So the pride...
Wrong speaker, sorry.
Right? I know if anyone listens to us, they're generally from real estate. So you've got the pride to bitch and moan to anyone who will listen about the amount of prospecting you have to do, but you've got too much pride to ring up and go, I'm really fucking struggling here, can you help me? I will never ring up and say someone wants me to fucking prospect because I've got too much fucking pride for that. But ring up and ask for help, I'd do it on an almost fucking daily basis. I don't understand where the pride kicks in.
You just answered him. So when it's pride, you wouldn't call.
No, I wouldn't call over prospecting because that's
you
not pride.
You have too much pride.
I'd never call and go, oh, my boss wants me to work harder, right? That's because that's a pride. How can you fucking
so you wouldn't call over a pride issue. That's what he did.
No, but he's
You want another hour and 59 minutes before you get the last... Because I'm giving you the 1 minute now before the 1 hour and 59.
That's what people's pride kicks in at the weirdest times. It doesn't kick in when you're being a moron, but it kicks in when you really fucking need it.
When you're struggling. Yeah, absolutely.
When you really need the help,
absolutely.
Your pride doesn't let you ask for it.
And it's not
when
the
you
first
don't need
time,
the help.
It's not the first time I've been told that.
I'm not saying it's you.
No, but I'm fucking being honest. I'm telling you, it's not the first time that TL looked at me and going, you're a fucking idiot. I thought we were mates. Pick up the phone and call me. And it's not the first time we've had that conversation.
I'm speaking now on behalf of anyone who might be listening.
I know I'm saying
willing to bitch and moan.
But they understand, and I know I'm not in this lifeboat myself.
So what do you reckon it is?
I have no fucking idea.
What do you reckon it is?
Was, like we said, ego.
I don't understand pride to that extent.
But your ego should stop you ringing up and going to anyone, oh, my boss wants me to work harder. I'm not saying it to you. Right? But they're the phone calls we get.
Yeah, right.
When we get in our groups and we get in our pairings and we get in our
and as I said, from
mastermind groups, and people like to ring you and go, I don't think we should have to do this many phone calls. But when they're about to fall off a fucking cliff, all of a sudden the phone line is disconnected. I don't understand that part of pride or ego, or I don't get it. Because to me, my ego says, I'm never going to ring anyone and say that I need to work harder because that's fucking, that doesn't look good. That's bad against my ego. But if I need help, I'll go, fuck, can you help me? Because I'm fucked.
Is it for people being fear of being judged?
But they're not being, that's the thing, they're not scared of being judged about complaining that their boss wants them to work harder, but they're scared of being judged that they're actually struggling.
Because maybe that's not about them now. When they're calling up about issues they're having with themselves, maybe it's about them, and they're feeling that maybe they're being judged.
This whole massive world has changed, and at the moment, I'm not sure what it means for me and my family. So here's where my ego kicks in and doesn't try and talk to anyone, but my boss asked me to work a bit harder and I'm going to ring and bitch to everyone I fucking know. Your ego doesn't kick in there. I I don't know. I thought you knew this stuff too.
No. Listen, I don't do Pride as well as you guys.
Well, you've never rang
Clearly, with the shirt you're wearing tells me.
That's a jealous man.
It might have a fancy label, mate, but it still looks like a tablecloth. What do we do?
Listen,
from a gay wedding.
The ultimate display of humility is when you can wear a tablecloth and be happy about it.
A pink tablecloth. I wear shirts that don't fit me all the time, and that's because my size changes on a daily basis.
No, boys, things change all the time, and I think that Pride change in terms of form all the time, but it's always about the same thing. It's exactly what Chris said. I think it's about the fear of being judged. Being judged, you should know. Being judged, what do you mean? You're a father of two and you don't know the answer to that. Being judged, all that stuff. If you really have a look, all of our life is about being judged. People who have anxiety because they're running out of money and then they have to go to their husband, for example, or their partner and make them really go crazy. That's also about being judged, because sometimes it's about being judged. What do you mean? You can't really have a family that is not going through a comfortable life. Everything is all about being judged. And that's coming from our parents, our entire bringing, and I think it's in the DNA of people. Everything that people do, everything that my children do is about being judged by Veronique and I. Just as much as whatever I'm doing is about being judged by mum and dad. At one stage or at some stage, some people grow beyond that, out of this. At some stage, some people are born maybe with some brain impairment, therefore they don't even get to feel that. The reason why the three of us will feel a lot of that is that we are highly sensitive human beings. I've sat in this podcast and I don't think, beside maybe one where I saw Cam doing it, I don't think that I sat in a podcast with the two of you boys when I've seen the two of you boys with tears in your eyes talking about certain things. When you were talking about your team, Cam, earlier, when you were talking about your predicament and not calling earlier. So, and the negative things that you were thinking, I could see it. Maybe that is a trait that makes us who we are, but we are highly sensitive beings. And I think that what we try to do too much is to keep a lid on it. Because we are men, we are not to show all this. But in the end, we will pay for it. So what do we want to do? Be a pressure cooker until it explodes? And it can explode in two ways. Explodes either by us expressing it outwardly, or it become something that we embody in terms of a disease into ourselves. Or do we learn to express it as we go and release it? And there's two ways you can do it. You can do it with people who mean well to you, may not be very nice in the way they deliver certain things, but you need to look at the intention, or deliver to a loved one. But quite often a loved one, well, they'll tell you what you want to hear, and they don't tell you really they don't give you the medicine. Or you just keep a lid.
Yep.
I think the issue that we're talking about is not unique to us. Right now, there's thousands of people who are feeling just like crap, right? There's thousands of, I'm talking fathers, mothers, who are now sitting at home with their children and they don't even know how to tell their children, all of my life I tried to do something, and right now it's not there. And it's enormous, the amount of people. And I think that it's up to those people to really find things like the discussion we're having right now on podcasts, or find it through their friends. And then if their friends happen to grab a podcast like this, share to their friends so that their friends can really learn about it. And in the end, mate, I was not much of a person many years ago if it wasn't for the teaching and the audacity, I call it audacity rather than anything else, to go out there and seek knowledge. And people need to be doing this to help themselves. In closing, I just want to say that one line that I learned from a text that Darren Butcher sent me a few days ago, and it was from Alain de Bolton. And he said this: everyone wants a better life. Very few of us wants to be better people. And I think we need to forget about wanting to have a better life, because in our desire to have a better life, what we do is we get lost between two things, hope and fear. And hope and fear are very much two sides of the same samurai sword. One is just hoping negative. Hope is hoping for something positive. And what we need to do is to forget all of that and go for the one thing that really matters. It is to really devote our entire self to becoming better people. If anything else, this COVID-19 is allowing a lot of great people to be uncovered, to find a better side of themselves, I think. I think that COVID's going to disappear. It's going to go, because by the time we find the vaccine, it's going to go. But then the bosses too are going to be found out. The leaders are going to rise from the ashes. And the people you didn't think were leaders are going to come out, boys. So I think the outcome of all of this is those of us who invest into a better life will come out on top.
Yep.
Agree.
All right. Thank you very much, boys, for this today.
Thanks, Chief.
And cheers again. Let's enjoy
Cheers.
this Max Penfolds.
Cheers.